To Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. It's going to be a great show. We got a great show planned. There's always news to cover, whether it's local, whether it's regional, whether it's provincial, national, international. There's stuff going on all the time, and trying to make sense of the world we live in is what we do here as much as we can, if that can indeed be possible. But we do it through basically covering the news and trying to unpack it, trying to ask some questions at least to get, to try to critically think on issues that are going on in the world, and at least to us anyways, come away with 1% more understanding of something, even if it's to contemplate things or ponder on stuff going forward, and then maybe try and research things a little bit later after this newscast. This isn't a newscast. This is a news talk, interactive radio show, podcast, and live stream for us to participate in. That's what it's meant for. And it's on our campus and community radio station right here in Greater Sudbury, which is CKLU 96.7 FM. Campus Community and Radio has been around since 1984. And we're also streaming online at cklu.ca. You can click on the Radio Player Canada app. You can stream us. You can also download that same Radio Player Canada app and then take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. You can also catch other programming, wonderful programming right here on CKLU, anytime, anywhere, if you download the Radio Player Canada app. And there are some really great shows on this station. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that I hear from any particular viewpoint on any of the shows here. And I'm sure they don't necessarily agree with myself or any of the contributors to this show. But I think the more we basically open up our minds and listen to others and continue to do that regardless of the point of view we have, it's a wonderful exercise in patience and respect to our fellow human beings and the art of argument, which is not when we hear argument, we think it's contentious. But an argument is actually a form of debate, a form of conversation when two or more parties do not share the same point of view. So the art of argument is long past. And it used to be very prevalent in our society, where you can take a topic. If you look at CBC, let's say in the 1960s or 70s, it's a good example of that. And you look at their shows, and they'll sit down with a controversial personality, and they'll just say, "Why do you think this way?" Okay, so what is it that you think about this or what? And they would really just have a deep conversation about someone who has not a mainstream point of view, but they've lost that in the last, 20 or so years, extremely in the last 5 to 10. And it's just one point of view being told to you. Like, it's now that our mainstream media just tells you things, especially the CBC's kind of taken a full turnaround from what they used to be, where again, they'd have these people and just really have deep conversations. You'd hear several different points of view, and then you could walk away like a good documentary does and try and take that information and then form a point of view after being well informed, educated, if you will, on a particular subject. Now, it's not everything there is to know on the subject, but it's a good amount of detail, so that way you can at least formulate an idea, but we don't hear that in the media these days. We just hear one particular point, and then they will fill in the other side for you in their way. Many people think the other side, and then they'll demonize the name of the other side as well to actually add fuel to the fire for those on the other side, and not particularly represent that other side from someone from the other side. Like, I don't know, if they're talking about a particular issue, why don't they get the expert on that other side to speak? They don't call them up. They don't ask them to come on the show. They speak for them. They they brand the other side, and then they speak for them. It's really interesting. Just notice that when you listen. But anyways, I digress. But that's all just to explain the idea of this show, and that's to not do those things. And it's to not feel that we know everything, or I know everything, because I know more about nothing than I know about anything. And that's just a reality. There'll be many philosophers throughout history would say the same thing in different various ways, that we know very little, even if we know a lot. And that's the truth. And we need to admit it. And it's okay to say, I don't know sometimes. And a lot of people have taken exception with the name of this show over the past, because it says Sudbury News, but we're talking about the news, right? We're not telling you what to believe. They're two different things. So in a way, we're kind of news gathering on the fly, and you're a part of it, and you're able to comment and be a part of the conversation. And with that, we're also streaming at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, and all that stuff. But mainly comment, because that's what the show is for. And so we cover the weather, a little bit of sports, local news headlines, and then we'll talk about a broader topic usually that anyone outside of this greater city of Sudbury or the region or Ontario or Canada could relate with, because we're all facing a lot of the same issues in the world at the moment as we make our steps towards a global society, and one which will have pros and cons. So there are pros to it. You can't just talk about the negative either. There are some pros to that. But there are also a lot of negatives. And that's the idea of discussing and talking about the situation to understand the world you live in a little bit more, because you live here, right? And a lot of us are going about our daily routines, really not knowing where we came from. So we're these beings on this planet, not really knowing where we came from, going around wondering why we're here. Some of us not. Some of us are totally content not knowing why we're here or where we came from, and that boggles my mind. But then trying to make a life to some degree, make sense of at least the immediate world you live in, your surroundings, your community. And then, we're beings that don't really know where we came from, don't really know why we're here. We don't know where we're going or why we're going there. So that's really interesting as a whole. And anyone who tries to, and there's a lot of people who have different theories and concepts to answer those questions, right? But on a large scale, that's the truth. That's mostly billions of people living on a planet, not knowing where they came from, why they're here, what they're supposed to be doing, the purpose of life, and then where they're going after this. But we're all here trying to make the best of it. In a way, it's comical, and sad too, both. So we try to do our best here as we're on the same journey to try and make sense of things. So thanks everyone for being with us. We have a great show planned. We'll begin with the weather as usual, and we'll be back right after this with news headlines, your comments, and much more. Stay with us. And your Sudbury weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Lands on our sudbury.news website. And it's currently -12, but it feels like -18 degrees. Another cold one. But I'm thinking we're going to get a little bit more mild weather as it's been predicted and forecasted. So let's see. Today will be cloudy, 30% chance of showers. 30% chance of flurries this morning and early this afternoon. Wind becoming northeast, 20 kilometers late this afternoon. -2 is your high. Wind chill will be -5. This morning, even though it said -18 previously, and -14 this morning. So tonight, clear, wind will be the same, and low of -14, wind chill will feel near -20. So I guess it's not going to get any warmer tonight, just as cold. Thursday, sunny. The wind chill will feel like -20 in the morning and -11 in the afternoon. Burr. When's this warmer weather coming? It says -8 and sunny tomorrow is your high. And then Friday, -3, mix of sun and cloud. And now here's the warmer weather coming. +1 on Saturday, mix of sun and cloud. +3 degrees and cloudy on Sunday. 40% chance of showers. That's not even a chance of flurries so far in the forecast on Monday. 40% chance of showers on Christmas Day. Interesting. I can't remember the last time that's happened. I remember a green Christmas, a green season all the way up to Christmas about 10 or so years ago. And then it snowed Christmas morning, and it was a miraculous thing. It was beautiful Christmas. I don't know if any of you remember that or not, but it's forecast to be 4 degrees, 40% chance of showers this Christmas Day in Greater Sudbury. Interesting. Okay, Tuesday, December 26th, Boxing Day, -1 and cloudy is your forecast. Look at your satellite as it was taken at 2:30 a.m. You can see all the clouds over northern Ontario, and that's what we've seen mostly, from about, October to now, pretty much daily, mostly clouds. It's interesting how that happens. I don't understand it. But anyways, it is what it is, and that's your Sudbury weather, and it's brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines and much, much more right after this. And just a reminder for everybody that the Sudbury Wolves and the Sudbury Five are playing right after Christmas, a couple days after Christmas. Make sure to get on Sudbury Wolves, the Wolves, sudburywolves.com, and then check out the5.ca for details on those games that are coming up right after Christmas. It's something you can do with your family, enjoy getting out there with a family-friendly event. And either it's a Wolves game or a five game, get out there and support the Wolves and have a great time for not very much money. It's a very cheap way to get out and have a good time with your family. And over the holidays, people are visiting, say, hey, want to see our professional basketball team playing? Hey, you want to come out and see some future NHL players on the Sudbury Wolves play? Come on out. You want to see the Wolf come out when they score on the clothesline? It's apparently a pretty iconic thing. So invite them out and have a great time during the holidays. Monique, good morning. Sudbury with a sunshine emoji, or at least a happy face emoji. Looks sunshine to me. I'll take it as that. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, everyone. And Belinda with her positive statement of the day. Good morning. Hearts that beat to the tune of kindness can change the rhythm of the world. Heart emoji. Thank you so much for that. And that is so true. Even if a lot of us don't know where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going, we can at least have a kind heart and love ourselves and love others while we're here. while we're figuring things out, right? Leandre, uh, common sense is a gift. Common sense is a gift. It's a punishment because you have to deal with everyone who does not have it. So it's two, right? It's a gift and a punishment. And oftentimes gifts are that. So if you have a gift, there's usually a big downside to it as well. There's a lot of upsides to it. But yeah, what they say is ignorance is bliss, right? Knowledge is power. You've heard the two. Knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. So sure, power, but then there's a lot of anxiety that comes with knowing things. But ignorance, you can just enjoy things without the knowledge. So it's interesting. Belinda, the Trudeau government decreed. The Trudeau government decreed that all cars must be electric. So they decreased the amount of gas-powered vehicles. They decreed that all cars must be electric by 2025. I guess his private jet is fueled by pure tyranny. Well, no, his private jet doesn't have to be electric, right? So he's okay to fly in that. Just the cars have to be electric. They've had a few goes at electric planes, but good luck with that one. They're so heavy with all the batteries and stuff. It's not a good thing. Anyways, we're going towards this way too fast. It's insane. We're not ready with infrastructure yet for this whole electrifying of everything and zero carbon emissions by 10 years from now. It's over the top, and we're gonna destroy mankind to save the planet is what we're doing. Because if you destroy economy, which is what this whole new shift to the green economy, it's not happening. They're not doing it in a well thought out, step-by-step way to make sure the economy doesn't crash while they're doing it. They're just crashing the economy to get to this renewable energy pipe dream that can be realized if you do it right. But I don't understand the recklessness in which they're doing it. Totally don't understand it. It's because of radical extremist eco-terrorists. I don't know what is that. Is that the term? Eco activists that are now in power. Like they used to be part of Greenpeace and tying themselves to trees and doing things like that. But now they're in the very seats that make the decisions. And so we see these decisions being made and not well thought out. These are not business people. They are not people that can manage anything other than, again, going out and protesting and tying themselves to things and stuff, which, again, is a good cause. And who doesn't want to save the environment? Everyone does. But you got to do it in a way that you don't kill yourself doing it, right? The solution has to be better than the problem. The solution can't be worse than the problem and cause more problems. Right? Right? Or no? Okay. We're good. Liette, good morning. All from Collingwood. Thanks for joining us from Collingwood. And Maurice, good morning. And Collingwood's such a beautiful place in the summer and winter. Maurice, good morning. Sunshine emoji. Happy emoji. Liette also saying people have become so rude and combative to push their point of view, whether it's true or not. That's the worst. Sorry, that's the worst. Those who speak for others is even worse, kind of thing. Exactly. It's good getting it from the horse's mouth. I think that's on my little bit of a rant before we started about, having conversations with people, even if they don't agree with us. And the media these days, especially the CBC, is guilty of this, is that they don't really show all sides of the story. And it was great when they did. So I'd love to get back to those days. Truth doesn't mind being questioned. Lies do. Belinda, that is so true. Monique, Grand Rising. That's an awesome way to say good morning. Thank you very much. Also, Denise says, since I was young, every couple of years or so, we have a green Christmas. If it's not green, it's close to being green. That's true. Yeah, and I would say maybe not every couple of years, excuse me. But again, so many years. Again, I could remember maybe 4 in my lifetime, and I'm 50 years old. So it would be, I would say, in every 10 years or so, we get one. Just my personal experience on it, and yours. And again, it maybe depend if I lived in Sault Ste. Marie or Sudbury or Espanola or whatever. It could be snowing in one, or snow on the ground in one area and green in another too. So, Mikey, first time I'm seeing you on here. You could have been on before, but the little piles of snow in the big parking lots don't really count. In my area of Sudbury, we can almost cut the grass. No snow anywhere. Yeah, it's true. It's they're saying it's going to be a green Christmas. There's actually a story coming up on that. Another new person, but this is coming from YouTube here. BU11. I like that handle. Common sense ain't so common these days, and that is so true. Denise also, Satan, if we're going to bring in, a spiritual aspect or a belief of why we're here, where we're going, where we came from. So Satan loves power. Artificial intelligence loves power, and this power is nuclear power. Satan promised to destroy man. Nuclear radiation is not friendly to anything organic. Interesting. My point of view on that is, it's you can have negative results from nuclear. You could also have a lot of positives as well. If they're going this green way, everything's green and sustainable and all these things, nuclear actually is a viable thing. But again, you can use anything for bad as well. Take firearms, right? Firearms, to me, they're not good or bad. It's the people that are using them that are good or bad. And you can take anything and use it for that. To me, hydroelectric, you just create friction with fast removing water and it creates electricity. It's time tested and true. And we got a lot of water in Canada and a lot of rushing water to create electricity. And it's sustainable and it's renewable and all that jazz. We don't give that as much credence as we should. Hey, good morning, Sudbury. Christmas shoppers. Jerome, thank you for that. Period. Says the globalists need a one-way trip to Gitmo. Gitmo. Yeah, for sure. I again, right? It's one of those things that are happening. So much has been done to prepare our governments and institutions going the way of globalism. I don't think it can be stopped. I think it's just a next step in the evolution. Nations are actually a new thing too. Nation states. That's very recent in history that we've even had nations like Canada or the U.S. or the U.S. 1776. That's not that long ago. And even before that, nations, there used to be kingdoms, remember? And before that, it was just whatever, just areas of people going around and overthrowing other areas back in the day. You had a group of people and they were more powerful than another group of people. They just take people over and they would just rule things. So it's interesting. And the whole progress of our species on this planet, it seems like globalism is the next. Call it what you will. It just looks like it's inevitable. We are here to stretch our souls and to ascend, for sure. Oh yeah, we're back on where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Never even thought we'd be talking about that today. In some ways, that's one of the hugest topics that could be out there. So I probably opened a can of worms. They talk badly about guns, but never talk about the good of guns, protecting yourself with it. 100%, right? There's so many stories of people where guns are more prevalent, where people have no problem, they understand guns, the good and the bad. Like, let's say a state like Texas, for example, where there's quite a few people that will carry and they have a permit to carry on their person. And so many stories of someone coming in to rob a store, or even with intent of maybe committing a massacre type of thing. And there would be a patron in that business who had a gun. And they were able to protect so many people and save so many people's lives. So we talk about these people that go off the rails and they shoot up a bunch of people. But I've always said, and this is very controversial, especially in Canada, like, let's say it was a law that you had to carry a gun. So the opposite of what we're used to, right? You have to carry a gun. It's a law. You can't go outside without it. What a different world that would be. I wonder how much police we would need. You know, you'd still have to obey the law, abide by the law, 100%. You still have to. There's no doubt about it. You shoot someone and you shouldn't have done that, you still go to jail. There is still police, but can you imagine how less amount of police we would need? Other people say it would be all lawless and there'd be all kinds of crimes, but I argue the opposite. It would actually keep our society much safer, and everyone would be trained, taught the value of life and the value of, or the dangers of taking a life unnecessarily, taught how to handle a gun, taught all the things about how to use it, clean it, keep it safe, all those things. I'm just putting it out there because that's what we do on this show. And I know a lot of people in Canada, especially here, would take huge offense to just saying something like that without talking about it. And that's what we're used to doing, right? We're used to just having our point of view, getting hot and bothered by it and huffing and puffing away instead of talking about it and actually really looking at the other side and saying, yeah, let's think about that for a second with all of the facts that go around it. So yeah, what if we had a world that it was a law you had to carry a gun, a handheld gun, you know, safely packed away in a holster, you know? How much crime would go down? How much people would feel safer? How much you'd feel safer if your daughter was going out for a walk somewhere at night or wherever? You know, you just feel a lot safer. But again, right? So it's the way we look at it. Cells are weapons. Interesting. I'm not 100% what that means 100%, but maybe you can elaborate on, the cell towers are weapons. Thank you very much. You already elaborated on it. With little black boxes installed in front of your home, done during COVID, the pandemic. Yeah, it's true. I remember we lived in Coppercliff, and the first day of the lockdowns, stay in your home advisory. Well, when we could go out for a walk or whatever, I walked out in the back of my yard on the path, and there was this huge tower there all of a sudden. Never heard anybody. I never heard construction crews. I never saw anything. It went in overnight, this huge tower, right? And then started to do a little bit of research on the 5G whole thing. And that's interesting, right? So, you know, someone could be called a conspiracy theory that you could weaponize the technology, but in fact, it can be. So whether they use it for that or not, it can be. Like, there's things you can do with that to harm people. So it's up to you to go and look that up. I'm not prepared at this moment with all the material to deliver that. So, but anyways, it's all out there. It's not hard to find if you want to find it. But again, right? So that's something worth looking into. And why did those towers go up? What were they for? I remember CBC talking about Huawei and the controversial the controversy around a Chinese company getting the contract to deliver the 5 network across Canada, and by doing so, would that jeopardize national security? Because all Chinese corporations have to, under their kind of their systems, report to the government, right? So all of our information would then go to the Chinese government. And I remember that being a big, big deal. And then the pandemic happened. Never heard a word from it since, but all the towers just went up. Almost overnight. It seemed like I was driving on the highway too, and where'd that tower come from? Where'd that tower come from? And there's many people that were approached that have these towers on their properties, right? They're paid rent to have them on their properties, and many people in Greater Sudbury. So there's, you know what I'm talking about. If you have a property and you were approached saying, hey, we'd love to put this tower on your property and we'll pay you a rental fee. And apparently it's pretty substantial. It's something you can almost not turn down. Right? So, but it's not widely talked about. Hardly anyone's talking about it. Mainstream anyways. Y'all remember when corporations complained about the government? Then HR was injected into their companies. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, the rise of HR is an interesting one, that all the corporations have HR. Yeah, good point there. Denise, CSIS did their investigation on China's towers, and yes, they are weapons. Trudeau was told. Interesting. Again, right? So these are your comments coming in, and anyone listening to this. This is where we share our views on news, talk about things going on in our city, in our region, in our province, country, world, about things that are going on. And all of the comments that are said, like my comments, are my comments. They don't necessarily reflect Laurentian University, CKLU, any of the volunteers there. They don't represent Facebook or YouTube or any of the platforms that we're on. They're my comments. I take total responsibility for things I say. And those that come on the show or want to comment are responsible for their comments and what they're saying. They don't reflect any of the platforms or the radio station that we're on either. So it's, and hopefully we can continue this conversation for as long as possible, because maybe something said from someone that will help another person make sense of something in their world they're living in, right? So Monique says it's indeed very important. The EMF emitted by the power lines are the root cause of disease. That's interesting. It started during the First World War. Look it up. Again, right? Look it up. I like how you ended that. So if somebody takes offense to what you just said, because people do, then they can, if they care, if they really want to know, if they said, that's not true, I'm going to prove that wrong, then they can do that. And I think that's what we need to be doing to understand things. Most towers, this is Denise, most towers are 2 kilometers apart. And if you look on top of housing buildings where people sleep, you may find parts of towers on buildings as well. Interesting. I do see that. Okay, smart meters are weapons as well, as what Monique is saying. And because they emit harmful waves, right? So the whole thing on this is the idea of 3, 4, 5, G. They all, the radio waves are just different. The frequencies are different, right? And some frequencies are more harmful to people than other frequencies. And it's pretty, that's I guess as basic as I can word it. And so some of these things that are going up, if you look at the frequencies they emit and what it does to human beings, it's kind of like, look at anyone who used to wear those earpieces, for cell phones. Remember, those were all the rage when people just had those earpieces in. Well, I have a good friend of mine. He can't grow facial hair on his face anymore on that side. Totally gone. Where I keep my cell phone in my pocket, I used to remember we had cell phones in holders, holsters on your belt and stuff. Those, all of a sudden, no one had them anymore. No one has things to hold their cell phones in. They just hold them in their hand or in their pockets. That's pretty whatever, because they emit frequencies as well. And now, because I had my cell phone in my two pockets, I don't grow hair on the top part of my leg anymore. It's totally bare. There won't be any more hair growing. So that's not natural. That's not good. And, a lot has been done to not publicize that type of information. Why? Because it would hurt the cell phone industry or whatever. Or they'd have to come up with expensive ways to combat that. And it would probably just come down to putting it in a case that helps minimize the frequencies that come from your phone, right? It was probably that simple. And there's probably products like that out there. And now that I'm talking about it, why haven't I gone out and got one of those to put my phone in? I'm sure it exists. Louise, good morning. I have a pacemaker and I'm not allowed a cell phone. Interesting. So it demagnetizes you. Wow. So there you go, right? So pulse electric magnetic field combats the effects of the 5 radiation. That's from Jerome. And Vin says, even the frequency of music, which is true, has changed. It used to be 432 hertz, and now it's based on 440 hertz. Yes. There was a group of people that got together on Jekyll Island many, many years ago. Rockefellers were one of the groups that were there, and they decided from then on these types of things, which is weird, how the medical system would be changed from homeopathy to the way we have it now. They changed the music frequency, the standardized music frequency from 432 to 440, and you have to wonder why they would do that, right? They changed the financial system as well. Any institution, education. So we talk about infiltration in all of our institutions. It kind of started there, a meeting on Jekyll Island. You can look that up. It's an interesting point in history that kind of changed our world. Probably not for the better. And they changed the frequency, the standardized frequency of music there. So think of this. So if we're talking about towers and stuff like that, so just the very music you listen to on the radio is all tuned to 440. So any music you listen to, it's the most harmful of all of the tunings to human beings. And that's where we tune our instruments to. And we sing to that as well. So all the frequencies coming from the music we listen to is the most harmful frequencies in terms of music that to people. Weird, right? And why would somebody decide that that's going to be, and you'd have to ask yourself, did they know that was the most harmful? Or was it just by accident? They knew that was the most harmful musical frequency to somebody and standardized it throughout the world, right? So again, so many comments coming in here, guys. I really appreciate you. As you know, always, I'm learning so much just being on this show. It's kind of like a selfish thing today. I've just been reading all the comments and having a conversation and learning so much, having a conversation with you. But let's get to a couple of news headlines here because of time, right? What's going on in our city around us, and then a little bit of a deep dive. Continuing with the video we had from Joe Rogan yesterday talking about our prime minister. So let's go through Sudbury.news. It's our news aggregator on our website. Find all local news there. Now that we're not allowed to share news on Facebook or Instagram, and can't share news on Google, like they can share news and there's algorithms. That's why it's still on Google, and they're able to come to an agreement, no problem, because they can decide who's news. So if you Googled Sudbury News, I wouldn't come up first, obviously. All of the other ones would come up first. But as a way to get all your news in one convenient way, you just go to sudbury.news, and right on the main page, you got all the local news aggregating, along with sports and weather as well. So you just go to the tabs. There's obituaries there. It all aggregates from all the local news sources into one website. So here you go. This is from Sudbury.com. Sudbury needs hundreds of blood or plasma donors over the holidays. Canadian Blood Services says they are more than 800 donation appointments to fill over the holiday season. They need 800 donation appointments to fill over the holiday season. You remember you used to be able to give blood in Sudbury, and now you can't. You can only give plasma, right? Sudbury's only a plasma donor site. You cannot give blood anymore. It's just for plasma. I don't know the reasons behind it. I had a conversation with a coworker the other day about it, but still have to look into that. And I prefer the American way, where everything is more capitalistic, where you're paid to give your plasma or your blood, because it has a value on the market. They take your blood and they sell it. It's a commodity. Or they take your plasma and they sell it to our healthcare system, which you're paying for. So here you give it away for free, and your healthcare money that you give from your taxes buys it from you, and then from at the hospitals or wherever they need it. Anyways, it's whatever. It is what it is. You can look into it yourself if you want to. Just interesting tidbits on that. Good morning, Marianne from Barrie. Late to the show, not a problem. Yeah, you can go back and watch it later. We had a very interesting deep dive this morning right off the hop. A lot of not so spoken about topics. And thanks for liking and sharing. Much appreciated. Sudbury Council, this is the huge news of the day here. They settle on a tax increase of 5.9%. This was from yesterday's budget deliberations. They're doing their 3-year kind of budget. I think it was successful. This is from Pauline Fortune. She says, I think it was successful. I would have liked to see more cuts, but there are opportunities for that in 2025. I have all year to work on that process. All right. So that was covered from the Sudbury Star. There were also other outlets that covered that. So here's Sudbury.com's headline: Infrastructure key in cities approved 2024 tax levy jump of 5.9%. Today's budget, or yesterday's budget deliberations, saw City Council vote to boost infrastructure spending as well as public transit service hours, alongside increasing transit fare by 14%. So the transit fare is going to go up 14%. Our housing will also go up, right? Taxes. If you own a home of $350,000 ish, your taxes will increase over $300 per year for the year. So $312 to be exact for the 2024-25 season. I did the math, just roughly 30,000 homes. I know there's more. It's over $10 million brought in just from the increase, which is interesting. Residents are facing a 13.2% tax hike over the next 2 years. Sudbury Mayor Paul Lefebvre says these budgets show the city's focus on infrastructure renewal and community safety. Interesting. So we'll have to go. I know Mike was on the show yesterday, and thank you so much, Mike. Not sure if you're on today, but thank you for answering, people on the show's questions, because I just think it shows a lot to be able to not, hide away and whatever, and not engage people from Sudbury, and you do a good job of that. Thank you so much for doing that. Natalie's been on the show many times as well, commenting. Much appreciated. And again, you're not in an easy predicament, and there's a lot of critical people out there, including myself. And my hat's off to you for that. So we looking forward to having you on and talking about the budget itself, why things were decided on, and then taking some questions. I know the last time you guys were on, you didn't really want to take the questions. We just wanted to kind of get to know yourself, Pauline, and Natalie, and have like a, just an introduction. But I think it'd be good to have you on and answer maybe some more harder questions. And you had a great story here. City finances, or chickens are coming home to roost. Ward 5 Councillor Mike Parent says the practice of past city councils to defer maintenance costs have left the city's current finances in a sorry state. So, and to have you on and also talk to that as well, right? So why did we have a tax increase the way we did? How is it going to benefit people? What are we doing with the money? What are we doing to cut costs and be more economically accountable to the citizens of Sudbury? And so we're looking forward to having you on the show. I know you reached out and also said that you'd be more than happy to do that, right? So Claire, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and all. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Heart emoji, Claire. Yes, and Christmas is coming up. Tomorrow is the beginning of the winter solstice. The shortest days of the year will be for the next couple of days. Can you imagine that? And then after that, good news. It gets better because every day gets longer. More and more sun, right? So we made it to here at least. Unfortunately or fortunately, we'll have a green Christmas this year. Now to get to a little bit more of a deep dive, and maybe we'll even have the last part of it just because of time. We started the Joe Rogan experience talking about Justin Trudeau. He's not a fan. I'm not a fan either. So we kind of think a lot the same. So he was full of a lot of S and F bombs yesterday. But here's I Am Coach Colin on his YouTube page talking about that interview he had about Canada and some insights that he's had on that. We'll be back to send off the show to Earshot Daily on CKLU right after this.
And that's usually a state-run media that's showing them, the government narrative, and that's all they get to see. Man, wild that that's happening. And and think about this, 30, I think it's 30 to like 38 million people in Canada. Joe Rogan's the number one podcast in Canada. Think about, he gets about 200 million downloads a month. All of a sudden you take away Canada, it's like that actually impacts him quite a bit. And he's right. He's talking about Trudeau like this. What's going to happen? They're all of a sudden going to be like, you know what? There's a new number one, and it's going to be like this Canadian, probably state-funded, government-funded type of thing. And it's like, that's what they're going to, that's it. That's just it. It's wild. But I love that he continuously keeps on calling them out. And honestly, he does it more than Jordan Peterson. Like, I follow Jordan Peterson on X, and Jordan Peterson gave more of a vile tongue lashing or talking to the Israel-Palestine conflict. He was more rabid about that than he was about everything that's been going on in Canada. So it's amazing that Joe is still doing it, still going after it when it comes up. Even though it doesn't come up often, it's great that he decides to speak on it and call it exactly what it is, because it is becoming very communist. And that other guy who's supposed to be in the government, Pierre Poilievre, I think that's how you say his name. I have his video here, and he seems better. Something about Canadian politicians. They all seem like teachers. You know what I mean? They seem like teachers. Let me show you a clip from the video that Joe was talking about real quick.
Not going to be happy. That's life.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of vested interests and bureaucracies that are going to be very unhappy when I'm Prime Minister.
Okay. On the topic, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly
Give me an example.
you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type
I
of
almost never
ideological
talk about.
spectrum.
I never really talk about left
But
or right.
anyways, a lot
I
of
don't
people
really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
Like who?
I don't know who. But
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
you must know somebody.
okay, I'm sure there's some out there. But anyways,
Some
the
people
point
say.
of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
What are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me
Okay.
a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms
that.
of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
I'm not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't understand.
He's talking about opposing the current government. I love that all journalists, or if that's what you can call this guy, they all got the memo that when somebody opposes what's currently going on, like Canada, it's like brand him as Trump. Give him the worst political name you can possibly think of. Brand him as taking pages out of Trump's book, which this guy does not. And I'm not saying that in a complimentary way. I'm saying he's not nearly as charismatic or entertaining as Donald Trump. I don't know about his foreign policies, but he's definitely not as an accomplished politician as Donald Trump is. And I don't just mean that Donald Trump became president of the United States. I mean that Donald Trump has shown to know more about politics and been able to execute greater things than this gentleman has. No offense to him. I'm sure if he gets in position, he'll do some great things. But Joe Rogan not playing around with Trudeau, telling him to eat what he said. It's amazing. And calling it out for what it is. It's moving towards a very communist way of life. People can't see news outlets on their social media, and everybody knows that's what you're on the most. If you want to go and see CNN or Fox, you don't really go via TV. And I don't even know, like, maybe they won't be able to see it on TV either. You know that you go to the phone. So they're stopping people from seeing news from other places. Thank God for, again, another reason, thank God for X. Because at least that's not taken away, because X is not playing all of this stuff that Canada's gotten into. So if you're in Canada, you can go to X and see everything you need to see, every story. You can see the right, the left, the centrist, the everything you need to see.
Yeah. So again, his take on that, showing a little bit of Poilievre's video there with him in the orchard with the reporter. Regardless of, I know I've seen some comments saying you can't trust politicians. They're all kind of just as bad, and doesn't matter who gets in. It's just a matter of how fast it's going to go and in which direction it's going to go. Unfortunately, politics and unless it's totally gone and something else replaces it, we have to play it. It's unfortunate, but yeah. That's what I say. Globalism is the replacement for our current political setup. That's what's coming. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to overthrow our national governments and have one big international government. And it's not going to be any better in terms of being beneficial to you as your freedom or your individualism, or conducive to your happiness, basically. Even though they say you'll be happy and you'll own nothing. I don't know. I think they mean they'll be happy owning everything. I think is what the term should be. It's like Scotiabank says, you're richer than you think. And I think it's really they're richer than you think. So anyways, that's the show for today. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for being with us and so many people on. We really appreciate you. Thanks for if you're early or late to the party. Join us tomorrow, same time, same place, 7:30 a.m. on CKLU 96.7 FM, Facebook, YouTube. Grateful to be here with you. Join us again. We'll be back same time, God willing, tomorrow. Stay safe and stay happy. We've had a good show today. It's been a good mood. So even though we talked about a lot of interesting conversation topics and had good conversations, we will continue that tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a good one. Ciao, everyone.